Etsy News, your place to get all the Etsy news. And in this week, Etsy freaked out people quite a bit, but they're also doing a good thing. And let's look at the next big Etsy top shop. Let's dive into it. So, first of all, Etsy freaked out people. Much earlier in the week, I think this was Monday, people were trying to get into Etsy and seeing a note saying, "You have been blocked. Why? Something about your behavior in the browser has caused our attention." Now, with so many forums and everywhere talking about Etsy shutting down shops, this of course freaked people out. It was just a glitch with Etsy, but the wording "you have been blocked," must have been terrifying for everyone that spotted it. So yeah, if you see something like this, it's a good idea to jump into the forum straight away and make sure that this isn't an issue for everybody. I can only imagine. Thankfully, I check Facebook groups and everywhere else first before I go into my Etsy shop, so I didn't get freaked out. But I can understand this must have been a little bit of a worrying moment for many people. Okay, so the tariffs situation. Whoo, is my head spinning this week? And as I said, Etsy's done a good thing. They are updating their articles with the changing situation with tariffs. Now, I prefer not to get political in these videos the best I can, especially because I'm not even from America. So my political is different from your political. But early on in the week, America said they were bringing in the tariffs for Canada, Mexico, and China. And of course, Etsy sellers were freaking out a bit. So Etsy did update their articles and make some posts on this matter to help us out. So we'll get into the next bit of this in a second, but some very good things to point out that currently, well, as of earlier this week, there was still the de minimis exemption in place, which meant that items under the $800 weren't subject to any of the tariffs, weren't going to be subject to the tariffs anyway. So it's good to know. Now, that is likely to change in the future because a big problem that many countries are trying to deal with is the whole Shein and Temu and everything are able to sell cheaply because they're sending small amounts of goods that are under the de minimis, so they're not getting charged customs. So lots of countries would like them to be getting charged customs, basically. So things are likely to change. You probably already know the tariffs were walked back again. They're not happening as of the last time I looked. Everything is changing so quickly, but it's likely that tariffs are going to come out. And when they do come out, there's going to be reciprocal tariffs from the countries that are hit. And also, even if your country isn't in that list, there's likely to be more added. I know America's definitely looking at the EU. If they're looking at the EU, then they're going to hit the UK. And yeah, definitely. It will be going around the world if it happens. So we do need to keep an eye on it. So Etsy is updating articles their in their help files, and they are posting on the Etsy forums because of even Etsy said this. I imagine, like us, you're feeling some whiplash as we navigate the ever-changing news about tariffs. We're working to stay on top of developments. So they have updated the seller handbook explaining everything, so it's well worth checking out. But as of Friday, the tariffs were rolled back, as far as I understand. It's changing so quickly that you read a piece of news and it's out of date already. But here's some of the things that Etsy did roll out earlier in the week, mentioned, and it is credit where it's due. This team has done a good job, I believe. So they are monitoring the rapidly evolving situation. So, fortifying purchase protection program. So, qualified sellers. So, if you're qualified for the purchase protection program, and if you don't know what that is, you have to be shipping with tracking or using Etsy labels. You have to ship on time, and be in good standing with Etsy and be below, I think it's $250 the item cost. But qualified sellers will not be responsible for refunds if an item arrives late or is not received due to a buyer delay, inability, or unwillingness to pay tariffs. So this can happen. Now, don't assume your customers understand the tariffs in their own country. Most buyers do not understand. They don't even know that what they're doing is considered importing. They're buying off of Etsy, they're buying online, so they're not aware of the tariffs. So it is very possible if they get hit by tariffs, that even currently there are import fees, all sorts of things that can happen from different countries. And if your customer gets hit by them, it might be a surprise. And sometimes they can refuse to pay them. Etsy hasn't changed anything here. They're just making it clearer that it's not your fault if a customer doesn't know and doesn't pay for them and doesn't get the item. Good thing here is Etsy are going to be letting buyers know if their order may be subject to tariffs. Now, this is a big ask for Etsy to do with the speed that tariffs are happening, but it is good. So you want to go into your shop manager and make sure your dispatched from location is correct, so Etsy is able to tell the customer. Of course, this is going to be a pain if a customer's looking at your listing and it goes, this may be subject to tariffs. They might not buy, but there's nothing, we can't do anything about that, because the other thing is they might be more likely to buy if they're from the same country as you. It's a pain. It makes the world a bigger place that's harder to ship to, but it doesn't put us out entirely. Clarifying country of origin. A lot of people are asking for this, especially if you sell vintage. You might not be subject to tariffs if your item, say, came from the US, you're in Canada and it's vintage and you're selling it. So they are, by next month, Etsy should have something in place so you're able to clarify that. And Etsy are going to be advocating for small businesses, so speaking up on our behalf, because a lot of the times with the EU as well, with all of these changes, what can happen is some of these changes might make absolute sense for what they're trying to hurt, as it were. I don't think any of these changes are out to get Etsy sellers. None of them have even probably thought of Etsy sellers. So Etsy's going to speak up on our behalf and be like, can you think about us, basically. And for a little final thing here, out of nowhere, I found a new Etsy top shop. Now, what could have happened here, I will let you know. I'm using eRank to scope out the top shops. Occasionally, depending on how the Etsy API is working, it is a new shop, but it might have made some sales and it just hasn't been spotted yet. And so it's just suddenly come into the system. With a high number of sales. This doesn't usually happen for high volume shops, but I think it's what's happened in this case. But there's a shop that has just opened this year and it's coming up to 2,500 sales already. So yeah, it's definitely possible to get a shop up and running quickly. But is it okay to sell these things on Etsy? We will find out in a later video. But for today, that is it. Unless I missed anything, you let me know in the comments below. Have a great week, and yeah, I'll see you next time.